Hey everybody, this is Rich, and you're with South Florida Beekeeping with Rich. So this last Saturday, today is Tuesday, this last Saturday we had a workshop here at my house for the Broward County Beekeepers Association, and we went into my hives and took a look at them. Keep in mind, the weather was overcast and windy, because there was a front coming through. We took a gamble on going ahead and having the class, and the gamble worked out. We started by doing the inspections, and then we went back and we did the talky part of the presentation afterwards. And as we wound up the talky part is when the misting rain started, and that didn't stop until we'd had 4 inches of rain overnight, 4.5 inches here by my gauge. But we got the whole thing done and done quite well, and we decided to videotape the portion in the bee yard. Now, my apologies, I'm a very bad presenter. If I was more polished and practiced at this, I would repeat everybody's questions, but I didn't. Watching the video, I think you can probably usually infer from my answer what the person's question was. So we're not going to try to work out and put up all the little, we're not going to dub the questions in on the screen or anything. We're just going to go with it. It's a video that just starts and it finishes, and in between we did inspections on 3 hives, and that's about it. So enjoy the video, and I'll have something to say at the end. Whoop. Yeah, one quick note, if you feel harassed by a bee, exit that away and walk through all the heavy foliage along that path and then into the screen room through the door at the end. But I keep that side heavily overhung with foliage so that the bees will be dissuaded from chasing you. Okay. It's pretty windy. Not what you would call ideal conditions for beekeeping. Ooh, that's dirty. And the bees are going to go, what the hell's going on here? Okay, so this is the way I currently keep bees. This is the main brood box is down here. This is 1 unit, not 2. This is 1 unit down here. I had deeps last year, and I decided to go all medium with everything because with deeps, they were retreating so quickly come fall when everything started reducing. They were leaving way too many empty combs available for the wax moth to invade, particularly. And it's been a lot better with the mediums. They stay covered on more frames this way. And when, up until January 1st of this year, the boxes were just this. I didn't have any supers on it. You'll notice 2 supers are a perfect fit on this box, or 3 mediums. Or I'm sorry, 3 nukes. So either 8 and 8 is 16, or 5, 5, and 5 for 15 with 2 spaces in the middle. Down here you have 17 frames. Let's see where we're at the moment. We'll just start. I've got an experiment going on between Hive 1 and Hive 2 right now. Oh, by the way, this plastic here simply means that this box is here as a spacer. It's got frames in it, and it will sometime soon, that spacer will come out, and it will just be, hives. But this year over here, I'm just using a regular inner cover as a divider between the queen and the rest of the hive. This way, if she really wants to go up there and lay more because she has more pressure, she can do so. And in the 3rd box, usually if you're doing 8-frame medium beekeeping, your bottom 3 boxes are technically your brood chamber, then a queen excluder, and then everything above it. For the amount of forage I have in this area, rarely is that the case. Most of the time they stay in 2 boxes for the brood chamber. But during the real surge later this spring, they will move up, lay some brood into the honey super, but then once that brood hatches out and they go back down, they backfill it with honey. And I don't mind because I'm not selling honeycomb, that's pretty and pure. I'm just extracting honey, and I don't care if my comb's on the dirty side. So that, it works with them. They can expand up into it and then come back down. I got that idea because all the old beekeeping books talked about doing it this way rather than the queen excluders. And like, you know what? I think that might be a good solution for us down here, because you have all the people who complain that they're not queen excluders, they're honey excluders, that bees don't want to go up through them to work. But of course, that's the other big value of having all one size box instead of a mix, because if your brood is in mediums and you want to take a couple of frames of brood and pull it up above a queen excluder, then that pulls the bees up through it. And after that brood hatches out and goes back down, well, the bees are used to being up in there and they're making honey. So it works. Oh. Front porches. Yeah, they just keep the rain out. That's it's a vertical entrance there, so that just keeps the rain out. It's just a front porch. That's all it is. Oh, see? Now look at all those small hive, or rather all those wax moths in here. We're going to find some empty combs. Just look at those wax moths. I wanted to inspect this hive last week, and I didn't because I didn't want to disturb them twice. So look at that.
How to avoid that?
You avoid that by staying on top of empty comb, because wax moths, a healthy hive can handle wax moths as long as they're covering the comb. But if they've cleaned out the comb and they're done with it, and they're just, it's like having cleaned the hotel room and they're not using it right now, unfortunately, squatters can come into the hotel room. So this is not going to be good news.
Is that below? I think you talked about your slotted bottoms as opposed to a screen, I believe.
Oh no, these are screened bottom boards.
Oh, they are, and that wax moth still will push beneath.
Oh, that just means that these wax moths probably, it's not going to be as bad as we think. The wax moths are attracted here, but that's just going to be some of the junk that's down there. That's why I do this. Let's see, I only put these supers on here about January the 4th. Let's see if what they're doing in them. Come on, baby.
How long have the supers been off?
The supers have been off since last November.
Did you freeze the frames?
I did. To kill larvae of wax moth or small hive beetle. Yep.
When you freeze them, you just sit it in the freezer? You put it in a bag? How do you freeze it?
I only keep them in there for 5 days or so, so I just put them directly in the freezer. I don't cover them with anything. After I take them out of the freezer, they go into a cardboard box. And when the cardboard box is full, a plastic bag outside the cardboard box is pulled up around them. And on top, I cut the toe out of an old sock, and I put paradichlorobenzene crystals in the sock, and I close the cover of the box. I drop the paradichlorobenzene on top of the closed box, and then I pull the bag up around it, and I tie the bag tight.
You have it up on your Facebook.
No,
In my YouTube channel, yeah.
YouTube video.
Yeah. So they're up here putting away some nectar. Like I say, I put the frames in here so they didn't have to work at starting anything. But let's see. So yeah, those, thankfully, when we get down into the brood chamber, unless they've backed up out there, they're working up here just fine. And you might notice that, oh, look, there were no small hive beetles running around on everything. Now, I'll make no claim that I don't have small hive beetles. I do. But, you know, the use of the grub granules, you can see the white on the ground down here, does a great deal to help that.
Where do you get that?
Home Depot.
They're just grub granules?
Yeah, Grub X. I have a bag over there we'll be talking about. Ulrich. Yeah, that's Ulrich. Did you happen to watch that video of mine? Okay. There's been a big change since I was telling you about that. A researcher in Georgia started investigating the possibility of the active ingredient in GrubX being used as a poison against small hive beetles, you know, if you mixed it with a pollen patty. And they had tremendous success, and the mortality rate on bees was way low, and the mortality rate on small hive beetles was way up here. And the intersection point was way the hell over here. So they're trying to get a patent now so they can start a company to manufacture a pollen patty that has a controlled amount of the same chemical in it, which shows you how safe it is broadcasting it the way we do. I was always worried about there being a danger of it. Apparently, it just really has a very low toxicity on bees. So the fact that we're using it for the small hive beetles is terrific, and maybe we can even get, you know, some real hello lady or sir rather.
How well do you think that would work in grass?
Fine. That's what this stuff is designed for, is to spread in grass. Well, our brood chamber is. Whoa, I don't like the way they're looking at me. I have their full and undivided attention, and I don't like that. Oh no, I don't use much smoke. I use as little as at all possible. But it looks like it looks like they might be putting honey down here in their brood chamber.
The guy with on the beetle show, the guy who has the bees on Griffin Road, just west of Flamingo.
Uh-huh.
He told me about using mint oil.
Yeah.
And I tried that and it worked.
Well, and that's a variation of the peppermint challenge.
Yeah.
People are just putting peppermint candies in their hives for the hive beetle.
Okay, all right. I was just you know the squeeze nipple?
Yeah.
I put a drop between each frame right here. Back and front. And it
that is such a pretty comb. It just doesn't really belong in the brood chamber. It's like they're not as active as I would like them to be from this stand of things.
You're talking about the equipment. Just the box.
Yep.
That is a pretty frame for early spring. Did you get it there, dear? Okay. Okay. Let's see. Well, I'm coming over about 5 frames now.
So you always keep 8 frames in your boxes?
Yes.
Never 10 or 9?
You're stealing my thunder. There we go. That's what we want to see. That's what I want to see. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, this is the queen that I want to, Jeff. Thank you. This is the queen I want to split and put in some of the hive number 3 is queenless at the moment and going downhill. And this is the I want to make some queen cells from this hive to get in there. Did you get it there, dear? All righty.
See the queen there?
No.
Is she marked?
No.
What?
Every-
Take all the fun out of it?
Every time we put a marked queen in, they supersede her within like 6 or 8 weeks. It's like it is the most useless exercise.
Well, for us.
Well, technically speaking, there's really no need to go further. You can see that we have a laying queen here. You can see that they're putting away plenty of stores. I'm going to want to pull out a few frames. One of the things on my to-do list that didn't get done was to pull some frames out of storage and let them air out overnight. Or else I would take some of those frames of honey over here on the side and I would put some empty brood comb frames in there.
What do you let them air out overnight?
Couldn't you swap a couple of those frames right there on top? Or is that honey up there?
That's all honey above the excluder.
Just for the people clarification. So those big bottom boxes, they don't have a divider.
No.
It's all one hive. You just got a super dot. That's kind of in a peculiar way, in a different kind of way.
Visualize, if you wish, that these two boxes are stacked on top of each other, and that this is box number 3 on top of that, and that this is box number 4 on top of that. But I call these hurricane hives because you're looking at a 4 stack of hives, and look how high they are. Look how much trouble I'm having handling them. I'm not up here doing this number. Half of the year, I'm just working this way down here.
And not only that, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, you're not exposing as many empty frames as you would normally be doing by taking off boxes. You know, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a cool idea.
And again, as I said before, you can put supers like this, and this super is empty here. I mean, it has 8 frames in it, but the bees can't get to it. See? No bees! Nothing up my sleeve. It's just sitting there.
So the bottom boxes, if we were looking for those, what would we be looking
You see 17 frames of, and this is where the queen's doing her thing. So you're going to see honey on both ends and the brood in the middle.
And where's the reason for not having foundation?
Oh, as far as foundation goes, I prefer to let the bees draw out their own comb. I do wire my frames now. Once upon a time I didn't even wire my frames because I was only doing crush and strain, but now I'm using an extractor, so I wire my frames. And I've been, cycling out the ones without wire for the ones with wire and letting them build them up because, pardon me?
If you use wire, you can still spin the frame. You can spin a foundationless frame if you have wire.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
You can also spin a foundationless frame without wire. You just have to make a cage. And it may not be a perfect scenario, but I have chicken wire cages that I fold up around my frames and secure with a couple rubber bands and put them in the extractor. And it's like 70% of the time, the frame survives. Sometimes it doesn't, or sometimes you have to cut a chunk out of it, but it's, not the worst. Nothing to do with nothing. Yeah, we're going to, well, we might. Number 3 is a dying hive. So there's more to be learned from mistakes than from success. So why don't we go in hive number 3. Now it's not dying, it just dying because the queen has failed is all. I have still never seen, this 10,000 bees in front of my entry. And as you can see, I keep a cement block in front, so it's not like I can't find them if they're there. No, I'll work from here for the moment. Okay, now I guess I am moving. Okay. If everybody wants to.
Well, the bees are taking up the sugar.
Yeah, but they're still a little on the dry side. While I go get some water, if everybody wants to come up, this one has a clear top, so you can see how rapid feeders work. So if everybody wants to kind of cycle through while I go I'm going to get a squirt gun of straight water so I can dampen that sugar up a little bit. Because if that sugar gets too dry, the bees will stop recognizing it as a food source and they'll start dragging it out the front of the hive. Yeah.
So what do? Do you
I'm just going to squirt it with a squirt gun, dampen it up. Hey. Up. Oh my. Well, my neighbor could call the cops. Don't know whether they care enough today. Good morning. I can't extol the virtues of rapid feeders enough. I like to feed damp sugar. That's dampened mostly with lemon juice. Now, the reason these haven't gone through it, usually they go through it so fast that drying out is just not a problem. But like I said, this is a dying hive.
What makes it a dying hive?
It doesn't have a queen.
So you should just call it queenless.
Yeah, it's a queenless hive. Still got plenty of. They did had a nice big brood hatching here on Monday. Interesting story on that. So prior to Monday, all my bees have been as sweet as can be for the last few months. I haven't been popped for walking through the bee yard or anything. And there was a big orientation flight going on Monday afternoon. Tuesday morning, I happened to feed the bees, and there was no problem. Tuesday afternoon, I was just walking through way over there, and I started getting popped. Bees, guards, very aggressive guards are coming out. So remember, the first job that they give new bees after they exit the hive, you have their workers for the first half their life, and then they leave the hive and they start doing all the outside jobs. Job one is guard. So we had a changing of the guard, and we had some guards who were a little annoyed with me. Pardon? Oh, just orchids. Yeah, don't break the buds off my orchids, Anton.
So how do you proceed with a hive like this, as you say, is a dying hive?
I am going to take a frame of brood out of hive number 1, and I'm going to pop it in the middle here. And I'm going to make sure it's got resources on both sides of it. And we're going to see, mainly we're going to make sure it has some new eggs in it. And I'm going to pop it in the middle here. I just wanted to wait until after we'd done this thing today. Because I don't really want to go looking through there that hard at the moment.
So what would be your criteria as far as moving, from over there to here with eggs? It will attract, will that attract a queen, or will be
No, they will make a queen. These bees, the queen must have stopped laying before she, they didn't realize that she had stopped laying until it was too late for them to make a queen out of an egg. Every egg laid can become a queen if it's fed the right diet. But if you feed it the diet for a worker bee, then it stunts the reproductive organs and they become worker bees. If you feed her a royal jelly diet, then that bee becomes a queen.
Is there a limit to how much time can go by before you switch the brood?
Yes.
How
About
would you know?
2 days is a good, well, if it's an egg, it's only an egg for 3 days.
So,
And if push come to shove, in desperation, they can make an emergency queen out of a 1-day larvae if they have to. But that is not the best case scenario. They really want to make it while it's still an egg in the bottom.
you gotta make sure they still have eggs.
Yeah.
When you switch the brood. Okay.
Yeah. And if I take out a nice frame, I'm probably going to take the edge of the tool here and I'm going to kind of like crush down a couple of cells underneath. Pick 2 or 3 or 4, crush the cells directly underneath them so that they don't have to come out and do this number, so they can kind of come down like this. Yeah. So let's see where we're at, because I can demonstrate something here. You'll notice that this doesn't look like the other. I'll need you to out of my way for a moment to set this down. Thank you. So you will notice that we have some empty frames here, and these frames really ought to be over here like this. And then we have a follower board. That's because this hive was in decline, and it had beautiful combs out here in this section that they had cleaned up, polished up, and they were ready. But when you leave them alone like that, that's when the wax moths come in and have a field day. So if you're going to do any sort of long line configuration, you have to remember the bees go from December 21st and they start expanding out. The summer solstice comes, they expand out for a bit. No, I'm past the winter solstice. I started there, dear. I said December, and then as the year progresses, they expand. You get past the summer solstice, which is actually their first sign that there's an intersection ahead. And then they get to a point as you get around Halloween when they stop letting the queen lay. Okay, and they start reducing their numbers, reducing until we get down to where they're going to start changing the diet they feed the worker bees to make fat body bees that can last for several months instead of just like 6 weeks. By the way, has anybody here heard some of the latest news? Don't get too scared just yet. It's just one study at the moment. But back in the 70s, they came up with a standardized methodology for studying the length of a bee's life. What they were doing was they were taking the house bees that had not gone out yet, and they were putting them in controlled conditions so that instead of wearing themselves out, working, which is what bees do, these bees were given the best of everything, and they wanted to see how long they would live, how much longer. It really wasn't all that much, but somebody decided to redo that study using the same methodology, and they were finding out that instead of they were living half as long as we thought they were. Now, that's been done once so far. I'm not going to panic until they do 10 more replications of that. But if so, we're working on the assumption that she's laying and we've got all this, and if she's having to lay twice as hard as we think she is, it could be a reason why we're experiencing so much queen decline and having to replace so often. It's just that she's wearing herself out because her foragers are only living for a couple of weeks instead of the time we think they are. So let's see where we're at. But I'm not panicking yet until some more people do that study. Again, do you see any small hive beetles? Grubex.
I'm sorry?
I just said Grubex. Oh, what is this? I'm sorry, this is a Swiffer sheet. I cut them into squares and I put them front and back, and the bees will chase the beetles up into them. The bees rough them up. You want to pass them around? Bees rough them up. Of unscented Swiffer sheets.
Where did you have them positioned? I didn't see where you pulled.
Oh, I pulled one from right here and one from right here. See how the end isn't dirty? I overlap them and kind of stick them there a little bit and put the whole thing down, because the bees chase. If you look normally, naturally, the bees chase the beetles up into these areas, right? And then they will locate them up in there. By having this, the beetles go up in there, they get caught up in the fuzziness there, and they're around. Well, yeah, actually it is. That's something I often do, is take a chunk of propolis and chew it while I'm working the bees, because you know what? They just don't go at my face when I'm doing that. I have no scientific proof, and I haven't found anybody writing on it, but I'm not going to eat the bee. I do my propolis chewing gum. Now, oh, you do it too?
Yep.
Anton does it too. Now look at these bees. They are paying absolutely no attention to us whatsoever.
Don't do the population. Don't have a beach to worry about. The salt water. Oh,
I lost my hive, so
Yep. Okay. Well, they may be queenless or they may not. I mean, that's the first thing I have to do is make that determination. Because just because I don't see a queen doing anything for a couple of weeks at this time of year doesn't mean she's not there. Sometimes they're just slower to come up on it. But
Does the queen tend to be more difficult to find around this time of year, or no?
no, she's about the same. Well, actually, she'd be easier to find this time of year because there should be fewer bees in here. But what I want to do mostly here is find out if I still have some cap brood or whether that big flight last Monday was pretty much the last brood. Little bit of patchy brood left. But, hey, wait, what? Yeah, I thought I saw an open larvae.
there she is. She's right there.
Yeah. Oh, there she is. I don't have to do anything.
Right there.
Right there.
Oh, I see her.
See?
Oh,
That's why I never panic when I think I'm queenless. I always give it a couple more weeks.
Yep. Usually the bees will take care of it.
Yep.
Cornea.
Yeah, that's her spotty.
And she's laying.
A little bit.
They're
Yep.
bunching up on top of her. Is that the case?
Yeah, they cover
There.
her, yeah.
No,
Uh-huh.
she's right down here in the
She's right down here in the
Yeah,
corner.
but- yeah. Well, yeah, but they're on top here. There she
corner. There
goes.
she is.
Yes.
You ready, wet deer? I'll give her to you. Oh, she's going around the corner. Oh, you did? Okay, she's going around the corner now.
We'll play
She hasn't come out yet. She started going around the corner. All right, good. Less work for me.
Can you open the last one? I want to see how you combine them, please.
Oh, sure. Well, you see how I combined them from the outside.
Yeah. but
Oh, I got you.
Nothing there.
There's nothing there.
Oh, there is nothing on this way?
No.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
You
No.
put the two boxes together.
Yeah.
I will.
I thought this one was filled in.
We will cover that when we get back over there. Okay, if you'll divide for a moment, let me grab the. I don't want to use these. Anybody want a souvenir? Now, mind you, hey, look. Best thing I ever did was to put a mailbox in my bee yard. Oh, here we go. Here's one from back in the days when I did have beetles. So anybody who doesn't believe these work.
So they get trapped in the Swiffer material?
Yep.
And they die by themselves or they sting them or
No, they just die by themselves.
they get trapped and they die.
You know the annoying thing about small hive beetles is that they can trick the bees into feeding them. So the bees jail them up, but then they just come to the front and they tickle the bees just right, and the bees feed them on the mandibles, and the bees feed them.
They mimic JDB behavior.
Yeah. Okay, I do want to cover this up, so I need to get to that now. Oh, you're right. Thank you, Gus. What would I do without you?
Gus is keeping an eye out for you.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a queen.
We have a queen.
Good news.
There she goes.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Nice picture. Would you send me that one?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay. That's where they should have been to start with. So later on, I'll come out here and I will back this up and I will put a frame of brood comb right here. And I'll keep this in here and keep two over here, but before long, I'm sure I will be...
Is that propolis?
That's propolis. I have to have my chewing gum.
Right.
Wait a minute. Did this blow up? Yeah, it blew up. Yep. I guess it is a little gusty. There we go. This has always been my most dependable and strongest hive. And I was really unhappy. This was a Sam Comfort Queen from several years ago. Now, not that she hasn't been superseded since then, but her genetics have been proving true this whole time.
Good genetics there.
Good genetics. Yep, good genetics. Okay, well, everybody want to go in hive number 2 while we're here? Okay. So, if you can back up a little bit.
Are you going to be on that side or this side?
I will be wherever you put me, dear.
Well, I will turn around this way.
All right, I'll go on the other side. These artistic directors.
He takes direction well, that much.
Yep. Smoker? Okay, good.
We don't really use the smoker that much.
Yeah, well, as you can see, I rarely use a smoker.
Yeah, but mine was on it.
Yeah, mine was on it by now too.
Well, then you need to learn how to load a smoker. And guess what? The only thing really in here is cardboard egg cartons.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, show the camera that before you show it.
Okay.
Palmetto bugs in my hive.
You gotta separate the top.
Oh. All right. So anybody want to guess which side of the hive the active brood nest is on?
The other side.
I think there's like a.
Yeah, there's a roach underneath there. Hey, there's just certain things you have to live with down here, and that's one of them.
What were you trying to show us?
Which side of this hive do you think the active brood nest is on?
Oh.
Oh.
This side, this side.
No,
That looks like a resource.
that's all pollen.
Yeah.
That's all fallen pollen grains, and that's happening on the side where they're putting away resources to be close to the brood chamber. And that's what the in a less active hive, that's where the wax moths and things will get in there. Yeah, as you can see, totally different on this side. That's just them working, cleaning up some cells in some frames. So I don't. Could I? Yeah, if I cleaned them better.
And then put oil on a little bit.
We'll cover that a little bit too when we get back over there and I start demoing things.
Do you use these in the summer or just in the winter?
I use these just in the winter.
Just in the winter.
Yeah, it's not too long now. By the end of this month, I'll be taking them out. And we'll be leaving them out.
When do
So-
you start putting them in? Like around late October or so?
No, more like mid-November.
Mid-November?
Okay. If you will move slightly so I can set this one over there. All right. There we go. So, ladies, how are you doing with this honey super? They're curing it. There. Well, they're working the. What am I looking at down there? They're working the comb to prepare it, but they're not really doing anything on it yet. Yeah. Plenty of bees.
Papa Georgie, you're going to kill a lot. Too many. Whoa, 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 Rich.
Come on. Come on. Well, hey, you didn't need to do that. Okay. Well, a few of these ladies are looking at me, but not most of them. So, let's see where we're at. Yep. High tech and incredibly expensive, 17 cents. I can't express how much I like this style of hive tool as opposed to the one with the big fat curl on the end. It's like, why? Ooh. Oh, it's just very, very heavy with honey.
Not on this side.
Well, it's got a lot of nectar. And it's got a lot of pollen. This would be if I was making a split right now, this is a very definitely a resource frame that I would be putting in a split. Look at all the pollen in there and all the honey and all the nectar. Yeah. And the next frame,
Are you using a starter strip in there?
I use popsicle sticks. I went in and did a lot of research back from the people in the 1800s who did all these experiments. Why should I reinvent the wheel? And pretty much determined that a 1/4 inch strip, a 1/4 inch, was ideal. And I have made every mistake, and I've done it every which way, including those. I have hundreds unassembled still of the frames that they went ahead and just built the wedge down like this. All that happens is they build it from one side, they build it from the other side, and you've got a mess. You take a regular frame like this, you run a popsicle stick down it. It only has to stick out a 1/4 inch or so, and they draw it perfectly almost every time.
And if it sticks out farther, do you think it matters?
Not on a popsicle stick, unless you're talking tongue depressor. 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch, all fine. Now look at that queen. There you go, dear.
That's a nice blue pattern. Excellent maiden pattern.
I'm going to turn this around and walk around with it.
Make sure which way it went in.
Well, that's taken care of by the arrows, dear.
Yeah, you should point that
I'm just kind of looking for the queen.
She won't be on that frame. She laid it up.
She's laid that one up. Maybe she's on the other side. Yeah, she's most likely on this other side because it's about half laid up on the other side. Well, she won't be on that side. She's done on that side. She'd be on this side if she's anywhere on this frame. But yeah.
Watch your arrows.
Oh, you're correct. Very correct, dear.
You guys might notice there's arrows on the top of our frames. Yeah, that's so we put them back in the same way they came out. All the arrows go the same way, then we don't mess up which way the frames go.
Now Ulrich does the same thing. Ulrich does the same thing by putting a brand on one side of all his. So as long as he puts the brand back, Frank Wellnitz, who isn't here, sprays one corner of his frames with white paint. Whatever it works for you, you know, it's all fine.
Yeah, we use the Sharpie method.
Yeah. Only thing is, you can't go back and do it later. Once the bees have put a layer of propolis on the frame, the Sharpie doesn't stick. I don't think we're going to keep going. These are my hives. This is what I do. I do all medium beekeeping. It's just that part of my medium is just 17 frames across. In other words, 8 and 8 is 16, and what had been 1.5 inches. Yeah, Gus.
Did you attach those two bottom boards or bottom boxes together where the 2 is? No,
yes, Gus.
It's one.
I'll explain that in a couple of minutes when we get back over on the other side.
What
Yeah.
is that, sir?
Pardon me?
What you're placing there? What is the
Support. Right now there are these are what am I looking? What's the word I'm looking for here? These are robbing screen protectors, and so the entrance is here. Oh, look at this! The bees have actually eaten that out. They're going underneath there anyway. They have just nibbled that out right there. Ah, you little shits. Okay. Yeah. The white portion below the pink. This thing?
Right here. Right here.
Oh, this.
That, the wood. This section here.
Uh-huh.
Is this a spacer? Well, this is.
Yes, that is a, well, we'll cover it in a minute anyway. I'm suddenly going blank on names, on words for some reason. It is a slatted rack. Slatted rack. And I will demonstrate a slatted rack. Yes, I have PVC screen bottom board, then a slatted rack, and then my box. I get no bearding in the summer because I use a slatted rack. And I will tell you, it is night and day. All right? These hives are always going to have the slatted racks. When I had a whole bunch of extra hives up here because I was catching swarms and such, I tried just using the regular bottom board and then just the screen bottom board. That's why I have an awful lot of extra slatted racks, because with our heavy afternoon thunderstorms that can just come up so suddenly, I just don't like leaving the bees out there. But I can have massive bearding on a hive. The next morning I put a slatted rack on the hive. That afternoon there's no bearding. I mean, to the extent that it's like, oh crap, did the bees abscond because they didn't like the slatted rack? No, they're in there. They love the slatted rack. It's a porch. It's a porch. Could somebody grab the smoker and give me a little bit of smoke here in this corner? That's it. Thank you. Come on, ladies. What's going on here? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go over all these different bits of equipment that you saw in use here, because they're what I have found works very well. Yep. Now, when you consider we've had rain showers this morning and it's windy, they were very good bees. And these are nothing but your African bees. It's a wood chip, but that doesn't mean I can't move it some. No. Okay. One, two, 1, 2. There they are. Okay.
Do you feed sugar water in the jars or?
That's water in the jars.
Or just water?
Just no sugar. I don't. Boardman feeders to me are only for feeding water. My water has a pinch of Himalayan sea salt in it, and I take it out of the pool so it's got some chlorine in it. It lasts longer, that bee. The bees like it better for whatever reason. I don't know. But I put a little bit of Himalayan sea salt, just a pinch per gallon, to give them a little bit of extra nutrient there. Anybody have any questions pertaining to the hives or anything that I can answer while we're still here?
Did you have more than one entrance per hive?
I have a primary entrance here. Okay. And then I have a secondary entrance over here. The other day, check this out. The other day, I thought that I saw a little bit of robbing behavior going on. So I have these little plugs. I put this in there. The next day, they pushed it out. It's like they like their little secondary entrance.
So you don't have any on the top?
I won't say I don't have any on the top. I will sometimes use these.
Oh, okay.
But when I do, I have a little front porch I put right there, so I have a little landing strip. But no, I don't do a top entrance up in this area. Found out the bees didn't really care for them. The same way, you'll notice the bees, we anthropomorphize. I'm not going to bother. These shims here, the feeder shims, and I'll show you another one over there. I have 2 nice vents above, okay? First thing the bees do is completely seal them up. even though my hero likes upper entrances for ventilation and everything, our bees just don't like it down here. Now, let me tell you one thing, and I'm going to demonstrate that on a box over there. These are African bees. African derived, but at this point, we're basically Scutellata down here. Scutellata likes a small entrance. Even Jamie Ellis will admit that. Even though at the University of Florida, they keep their entrances all the way open, all the way across. But he will admit it because when he was in South Africa doing his doctoral work, he said that the African bees would close that whole entrance up just to one little bit. And I have seen them do that here so many times, and I'm going to demonstrate that to you on one over there. They don't like a big entrance, and they don't like top ventilation. Pardon? Yeah. I come to that conclusion because, I mean, the last time I put queens in here was like 3 years ago. And I have seen the mood and character of these bees fluctuate and change over time, so I know they've been requeening themselves regularly. So I'm basically going in on the assumption that I'm just working with whatever mutts are in the environment. But also the fact that they like to block up their entrances down to a very small entrance, and they will do that on their own and such.
I thought the bottom line with the Africanized bees were the defensiveness or the aggression.
Well, when I can walk in from there and walk across there over to there, and I get popped 3 times, that's from these that are sitting over here, that can be pretty aggressive. But that's not every day, and that's not all the time.
I tend to disagree with you.
Okay.
But that's all right.
Yeah.
If you believe they are there, but I would say no, they're not.
Well, I'm acting like they are, but I'm acting like they've also been gentled down to a great extent because of the fact that if one of these hives is truly aggressive, defensive, whatever you want to use, I will destroy it or I'll requeen it.
Which is the correct thing to do.
Yeah.
If these were Africanized bees here, we wouldn't have this meeting here right now. I raised bees in Trinidad.
Yeah. Well, you've got a worse situation there.
Different species.
Not species, it's just different strains.
Different strains.
Yeah.
Could be different strains. Are we moving out?
We're moving out.
How do they access the water?
Okay, well, there you go. We did, that was the video of the inspections. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. Tell all your friends, send them to your friends and such as well. We're really enjoying doing this. If you have any questions, be sure to just post them in the comments, and I will get back to you on them. So have a great day, everybody. Enjoy your bees.